Hello, my name is Anthony Wall. Since before the World Trade Center attack, in the World Trade Center attack context, and since a whole bunch of other nations with our own FBI, people associated with them, federal criminals associated with co-defendants, with and as co-defendants, a former director of the FBI, like a Robert Luskin is the name of the former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act. He's involved with a whole bunch of people on and off Fox Connecticut News and on and off WFSB that are using all locations, areas, and states remotely. And they have been doing that. So where and how the perfect world is forsaken, the phenomenon of Democrats and Republicans, of leaders, have to account for that. And see, now we have opinion natures that are not science, all states, locations, areas, and states. So, for example, this is relevant too because what is actually recorded. The news media is they pretend it's personal. If you call up to have mandated law followed, they pretend you don't understand them if you speak the specific acts. After the media attached me to fake recorded audio and video. There was a Mike Demain, and Adam Demain, and I don't know their parents' names. I think I might reckon that. There's one guy involved with a pattern of criminality as one of the police forms guys that looks kind of like he might be related to them. I only remember them because he demonstrated and people made confessions tied to them. Like a Rick C.M. Faglione, I barely know, sought me out to make confessions about a Mike Demain, and Adam Demain, and John Maiano, and Brendan Leahy, and his father Brendan Leahy, and his brothers, and involved with the New Britain Superior Court, dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts, are involved with prosecutors, retired and standing, judges, retired and standing, involved with predicate acts on my street, and through people associated with it. See, they're keeping victim predators where we have law, never had free speech, but, in other words, we don't have science proper. That's why we have forsaken locations and areas, and they're calling it forsaken because of race. No, leaving out how the breaching method forced that reaction to be propagated, to be maintained self-value by victim predators self-valuing the reactions to it for time reasons, all that kind of like that. No one knows how to react because everyone was tactically, differentially pseudo-educated. We came through criminally foreign influenced sciences and influences of experts of logic. There are all kinds of physical delusions and natures of organized crime that people of psychology are involved with various natures, with all the natures of courts, all the military, intercampuses, and with cases, they have crime methods with them, although tied to them privately, like prisons and schools. These are database relationships. Now, when they mess up in cases and things like that, they have to hide from and hurt correlation natures, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. Finite, active, and progressive. See, Martin Luther King he wasn't about giving up on needing to speak about the finite. He was trying to go at a pace where all locations, areas, and states are fake sides of correlation nature's trinity. So, in other words, I saw a clip on CNN one time, and he said, being sarcastic, he said, "We'll forget the finite. We're not going to be afforded the finite." In other words, and this is important. This is why finite is inside the word definite. and indefinite. For example, the definite article and the indefinite article with English grammar. With Arabic grammar, it's the same thing. Now, but it's about the finite. And this is about space relationship to itself. It's about, as an identity that is bigger than it, lesser than it, and while being its complete value, only increasing space/existence. Only the extent of this is debatable, and who debates it needs to value criminally foreign influence, premises, treatment, and physical delusions. That's evidence. See, but we have courts and we have interbranch and we have foreign in collusion with them here and there, and all the private preventing equality of fact treatment nature. They're preventing mandated law, the people who want to pretend they're about the law and things like that. And they're always speaking about what other people showed them, what other people pretend is recorded audio and video. These are people putting fake transcripts to hide what is actually recorded over wire and mail, because it shows that they used remote uses of both Barack Obama earlier, but presidents before him, and President Trump. They're forcing them to entertain the perfect world. The standards originally instilled, criminally foreign influence, delusions raw. We're in a breaching trap. And so it is, we have the phenomenon of opinions, say black and white. Say a passionate black right person and a passionate white right person. They're preventing evidences. They're preventing their roles with the prevention of mandated law. Where evidences are prevented, that's evidence. See, but we have interbranch and collusion with all locations because they need to keep from anyone from free speech is going to try to use finite true, active true, and progressive. So they have all kinds of means set up for them. People pretending isms mean what they don't, etc. So we need to have mandated law followed. They also force child offenders to hide their lipoaggressions. In Britain, dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court are involved with FBI and with CIA and with the Leahy family. Pretended they had conversations with me. No, pretended I talked about the CIA and or about anything with them. I never had a conversation with them in my life. Now he's got a whole bunch of other doctors, foreign and domestic, involved with them with a Harvard Hospital location. See, I had to raise my voice. They forced me in for a mental evaluation. Because there's a Detective Dillon, a whole bunch of people with him also involved, with interbranch families and foreign ones with abuses of kids, and private, like medical too, sick people, with a child sex offender principal note that was being used to hide the lipoaggressions of prosecutors and their kids already having been used criminally, male and female ones. And they use male and female judges criminally too. So they can't afford to have free speech outside of courts. So they have all the online platforms involved with organized crime acts and methods that are attributed, that are here and there, other nations. So if we start singling out our FBI and our CIA for their crime acts, then it brings up this narrative where hundreds of nations at once, then they use that as evidence against us. So they hide that. And they do the same there. And that keeps all locations, areas, and states in collusion with each other. And in collusion with other nations, they don't even realize it. These are the identity of the ground locations that are being used per a method that, knew that it could perpetually exploit and use our fact-cheaping nature in relationship to such self-valued and or blamed on other things, others, and selves. The real causes of the good and the bad of it, all locations, positive and negative. See, positive, truth, Positive and truth have a shared identity. It is the only definition that is every word at the same time. No other words. There's a reason why every word is a distinct word. But there is one identity of volume that is inseparable from all other identities of volume. You know, it's not just dark matter. It's dark matter, light matter, and demonstration of its clear matter. See, but we need science, and we need free speech outside of courts. Police departments are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated to use the crime method of pretending. Oh, you want us to send someone to talk to you? When the police come, they switch names and forge names and fabricate audio and video. Even when they're not, in other words, they pretend they had a conversation with me on the police department too, with one of the two Mendez police involved with the remote uses of the Obama administration, and with the locations on and off Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut, and the buildings next to it. And those Mendez police are involved with predicate acts with the Domain family. Now, there are also people with ad companies on the news placements and the service ads. Even, you know, that, because then they defend that. Then if it comes up, they self-value it and such. But what is really recorded there, they can't afford to have discerned. So this is what the breaching method that was here since before our founding parents were even born. It was entrenched in North America, South America. The North and the South of America, of what is the colonies. Sickly, distinctly, specifically for this long-term method that kept effectively and keeps effectively how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned. And the same exact problem /S is what other nations have, including when they don't have problems and they claim it good. Only way it could be claimed good is through contrast. Modern nations are in a semi-ancient trap. Nature is demonstrating negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, in demonstration that we are not using its logic. We are not using that identity of volume that is truth and that is positive and that it is 1 and 0, but distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. The invisible but still discernible is in demonstration to us. So they are preventing and they have prevented mandated law through administrations. They have wire crime methods, mail crime methods. Our courts and police with a whole bunch of other nations, all private tied to them. They are with all kinds of natures of organized crime acts and methods. Originally and still, what do you think that involved? Not prejudice. That was judicial organized crime, and distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously how it was executive. Not worse than organized crime, worse than war crimes. The entrenched, they are all victim predators. So then they would have to blame on other things other than themselves. The real cause of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, when being forced to entertain them to an extent which stays complete. So if you try to communicate with CNN over the mail, and lawyers, there are types of law manifest. And in other words, there's not a place to call up to have when you need a lawyer who's just going to be legitimate and you're going to stick on the regular facts. There's no simple one like that. Fabricating audio and video with the criminally foreign influenced people, identity ground locations, on off WFSB in Rocky Hill. There are a whole bunch of people also involved. That's in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, which is to to the south of Wethersfield. And right to the north of Wethersfield, Hartford, Connecticut, between New York and Boston. And Wethersfield, Connecticut is where George Washington had to come to Wethersfield, Connecticut, had to leave entrenched that which had slavery in the north. And they don't, not by accident, they leave that out when they say, oh, George Washington holds slaves. And they let people hear that. But they never let them understand or even hear that and how that breaching method already had that entrenched north and south. Even with the French general's help, George Washington had no choice but to leave it here. Everyone was in layers of juxtaposed natures of sick, evil, forced to entertain it. They knew, the breaching method knew that people forced to entertain so much would have to blame the real causes of negative value natures, acts and natures. And nature itself, like criminal insidiousness natures, mass criminal insidiousness natures. The breaching method with the laws as they were set up here before our founding parents were even born, it was designed to propagate mass criminal insidiousness natures, mass wrongdoers and wrongdoing, mass sequence shift styles, mass lie progression cover-up natures like criminal insidiousness. So criminal insidiousness is a value as nature, and nature is value / value as nature. I'm not a lawyer, not a police form, not a criminal, I'm not a doctor. I'll delineate their delusions from their criminal foreign influences for you. But you have to help me, and you have to help other people. You guys don't help out when you have the chance to. This is what keeps the people with... There are connections next to schools on Franklin Avenue, on Wethersfield Avenue in Hartford. All the schools in Hartford. But next to those two places are people involved with further... as the ones further involved through time. There's a principal child defenders campus near me is one of the ones involved with remote uses of the Obama administration, noting their remote uses of the Trump administration forced to entertain it too, because they're remote uses of the courts. Now these are people involved with federal crimes with the FBI and with the CIA and with the directors. Now these are people with crimes with Russians also. And so we have Russians with psychology, with their Justice Department system, with their campuses system, with their private database relationships, with their military. Here and there, they're kept criminally foreign influence fake sides. They hurt each other, other nations too, because it is through our nations to keep that the outcome. Then they need to say, oh, this is the... And then that's, they're debating like knaves. So, we have broken grammar school, but they don't realize it because of all the time they put in through it. Now they want to get, they can't defend themselves. So mandated laws is and was prevented. What needs to pretend other needs to pretend they didn't realize. So they facilitate, they need to pretend to believe in people are prejudiced and things like that. That's what the interbranch, black and white, female judges are recorded crimes with KKK themed and Confederate flag themed, and with black and white officers forging names, switching names intercities, with child sex offender principal note, and the prosecutors and their kids involved with that, as people also involved with the Domain family and the Mendez police, on and off Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, with Russians, and on and off Wethersfield Police Department, with Russians also, and on off the Wethersfield Fire Department, with the Russians, people pretending passions and emotions from backgrounds that I never had conversations with. They have people pretend other people's information because they need to pretend they don't realize what is actually recorded, which is where and how they have been preventing mandated law. There are more recorded World Trade Center attack predicate acts, sequence shifts, and other illusions that were stacked on off the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center, and that they involved even the victims of it with before the World Trade Center. And then they locked them into that. Now they're dead, so they can't say anything. So these are also people with a Dan Keene. I never had a conversation with. They try to pretend other because they put me to run for him against him with a class president. I never had a class with him. Never saw him around school. There are other people, my town's police chief's daughter, and others recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved predicate acts with the kids. There's a guy I never met, named Brian Savo. I don't know if it's his real name, because now I saw him on Facebook with the picture from his yearbook. And that name was confessed, recorded, demonstrated. They put his name all around walls, and there was all these stories going on when I was in high school. But now he's got a different name, but that same picture of him. That is in my yearbook. He's associated with fire departments. So fire departments are also, we have some kind of a way, have something tied to how Russia and America has nuclear weapons. And they're supposed to be close together. Pakistan too. They're here too. And there's something tied between that. And as the people with the news, fabricating audio and video, WFSB attached me and my family to fake words and fake locations in the past, fake ties to doctors in the past too. And they did that while they were still forcing a principal child sex offender. And they have predicate acts on and off his campus still. They're still hiding what's there and what's actually recorded. Now, there are more rape threats and confessions since before he got caught. But there are prosecutors associated with a Brian Silver. I don't know if he is a prosecutor. I think he's a prosecutor too, or state attorney. There's a Brian Silver, his kids, and there's a woman a woman prosecutor associated with Christine Bedard or Christine Tardet or associated with John Mayano, and he's got his whole family. He's got 2 brothers involved with attaching me to fake location sequence shifts roles with them. Fabricated audio and video evidences. These are police forms. These are people involved with predicate acts on and off Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Superior, and New Britain, Connecticut. And this is from Wethersfield, Connecticut. These are also people intercities. Rocky Hill, all along Route 3, people are involved with them with identity theft, frauds. And Route 3 goes right by the state judicial branch offices in Wethersfield. All along Route 3, right through towns to where it ends, are people involved with predicate acts with families on and off the state judicial branch offices also. And how they know when someone's going to be jogging by or something like that. They time people, as they did in the past with people acting. They have uses of black and white leaders that are recorded, delusions wrought together. But see, they interpret everything with that. So they can prevent people free speech and pretend passions, emotions they prevent writing in courts. They have Fox Connecticut News, WFSB, CNN, their sources are in collusion, fake sides of correlation nature. They are preventing people from making reports outside of school, outside of interbranch, and they are simultaneously recording themselves pretending other. And they are simultaneously preventing anyone from telling how that's recorded. They are pretending not to understand people, to pretend they had conversations with us. Fix the fake news that a whole bunch of Wethersfield police and their families and are involved with child sex offenders on the registry too, further with their family members and people associated with them, further involved on and off the Wethersfield Library, on and off campuses in town, further involved. I'll delineate their delusions from their criminally foreign influence, premises treatments, and sick punk fake natures. See, there's a difference between intelligent memorization and intelligence. We have an intelligence community that is criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought. That's why and how there are forsaken areas. And that's why when they try to make change, they lock it in worse. And or whatever made better, it still gets locked in. What is not our means. Since before cars, the pathology of homes was designed and was involved with that torture and slavery method against everyone, including our founding parents, since before they were born. This was an entrenched breaching method. Human fact, cheap nature breaching method. So if you want to have justice for forsaken locations, then we're dealing with science. Now, if the locations are mostly black, of course, because that's where the breaching method is forced. So admitting that, now we have the beginning of relief. What they call relief is some fake side that was forced on everyone to keep everyone using and so discerning it, missing how it is a breaching screen, missing how it is a breaching tool, missing how it is a breaching weapon. Worse. So we have to have mandated law followed. The online platforms pretend to be against hate speech. New Britain Superior Court is involved with sequence shifts and rape threats with Facebook. Facebook and Congress itself, both parties were used criminally, were used remotely. And then they have to defend that now. In other words, they're being used to prevent mandated law. They have Facebook pages interbranch and with the campuses that train the child campuses leaders, the ones involved with sexual and medical crimes with the kids, leaders of the kids on campus. And this is also how the school resource officers, you know how many crimes a Leahy family and a Dillon family and others associated with my street through time have with cases. Other associated with the people on my street because they want to use them as victims. Then everyone's speaking to other. We have investigators with no integrity. Many ways. That's what it reveals. Fake science spoke for and speaks for every area, location, and state, and country. So, follow mandated law because I can't. They're using wire crime methods. And they're forging names and switching names. And they have my town's police chief's daughter and the prosecutors and their kids, male and female prosecutors and their kids. And they already invested male and female judges. Now they have a Cololo family also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a whole bunch of judges and prosecutors and police forms. And forging names, switching names. Like an Officer Sullivan just called here a couple of weeks ago. Brought up the Cololo name. They're also involved with various natures of judges in courts, prosecutors, and sexual and drug cliques, identity theft cliques, through time relevant. So we need to follow mandated law, put things on paper. States attorneys are also involved with Washington, D.C. programs and World Trade Center programs that are tied to our courts, tied to training those individuals as victim predators. Delusions wrought. Pick one name and sequence for Connecticut interbranch, various natures of courts, and police forms involved with locations crimes and intercampuses. Now there's a Phil Cololo also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. There's a Kerr family. There are also the spelling K-N-E-R. There's an Officer Jerry Miller who also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated them involved with them. And there are Mendez police further involved with on-off the school campuses with the school resource officers. Now these are people with military families. There are people on Middletown on Connecticut River, associated with Phil Cololo and people associated with him that I barely know, like a Subby Bajerio. He's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with them with predicate acts with the principal child sex offenders campus. And they have their little kids involved. A number of Wethersfield police officers and Wethersfield police chief. Now they are involved with a bunch of predicate acts. Now you have to follow mandated law for them and the media at the same time. They also are using aggression from background like Facebook, because that's aggression where and how they're forcing the schools to collusion with sick things, even sexual and medical. They have all those responses to the shootings that are in collusion with that. Many ways. That was a breaching method. It's like an effect some way. And I can show you how that there are proofs of that through time. All the way from Wethersfield, same people, like a Kerr family, all the way from Wethersfield, all the way along that route that goes from Wethersfield through Newington into New Britain, on off Central Connecticut State University / Paul Manafort Drive note. Now these are people also involved with a Thomas Peruta, who lives right on the edge of, I don't know where they live. They're recorded involved with all along Route 3. That's Route 3 is distinct from the one that goes towards Central Connecticut State University. Paul Manafort is the name, I guess that's his father, the street. But it is the name in person who was brought up through the elections and stuff like that. The trials of the president. They're used to force him extorted. Preventing free speech while they're pretending other, because they're already extorted. Delusions raw, already used remotely. People pretending to be against Russia. People pretending to be for our troops. They self-value means to get away with that. With those narratives. All kinds of natures of organized crime that are worse than war crimes that Russians are involved with against Russians. And Americans against Americans. Look at the physical delusions and the criminal incompetence of psychology. Pick a name and sequence for them. Then they win elections because they have all the jobs interbranch. They have too many psychologists. They have everyone too many delusions raw. Physical delusions when they speak for black and white. So follow mandated law. They're pretending to be about the news and or opinions, because they're not about news, but they're not about opinions honest either. These are breaching roles. They're preventing, since before the World Trade Center attack, military police are also Eric Burgess and a woman associated with Hartford courts recorded, confessed, and demonstrated those courts involved with what I tried to report. I found out it was involved. Former director of the FBI had depositions of him as a defendant. And his co-defendants are involved with judges and prosecutors and military police and other nations in overt criminal enterprises and private ones with predicate acts, identity thefts, sequence shifts, falsified police reports, deans, uses of their family members for roles with that. Now they have to pretend passions and emotions, make allegations against people who are asking to have finite facts used, asking to have sequence truth used to demonstrate crime acts and methods against our people. See, this is a quality of fact-cheating nature that is relevant and needed if you want to make proper treatments of the impositions upon the north end of Hartford. If you want to make proper counters and overcoming of the impositions upon the people of New York City, of the locations, areas, and states impositions per the breaching method, per a worse than war crimes, simple predicate acts delivery system method, recorded clear as day. Follow mandated law. And note how they haven't followed mandated law. That's evidence. So the online platforms, in other words, they force the online companies to have, and regular companies to have policies. And they defend, everyone's defending the Constitution abridged. You can't defend that and afford Discern. What our founding parents needed us to use correlation to reveal, because they didn't have free speech.